Hello scholars, welcome to a video all about the causes of World War I. By the end of this video, you should be able to describe the causes of World War I so that you can then analyze the causes. We are going to use the acronym MANIA, which is just a word that stands for other words. So our acronym MANIA stands for 5 words. And make sure that throughout this video recording, you are recording on your sheet the blanks, filling in the blanks for the words that are on the screen or that I talk about. Also, there will be times during this video that you'll need to pause in order to answer some questions. Please make sure that you pause the video when I tell you to so that you can answer the questions and do some of the thinking for yourself before moving on to the next portion of the video. So with that said, let's get started. The first cause that we're going to talk about is the M in mania, which stands for militarism. Militarism is the policy of building up strong military forces to prepare for war. The A stands for alliances, which are agreements between nations to aid and protect one another. Nationalism, as we learned, is pride in or devotion to one's country. And this goes beyond just being happy to be in a country, but being willing to sacrifice or go to war for your country. Imperialism, the I stands for imperialism, which, as you know, is when one country takes over another country economically and politically. We learned about imperialism in Africa. We'll talk also a little bit about imperialism within Europe. And the final A stands for assassination, which is the murder of Austrian Archduke Franz Ferdinand, which you will learn about towards the end of this video. Go ahead and look at the chart that is the same chart as the one on the screen. This chart is a chart that shows the increase in defense expenditures. The first thing that you need to think about when you look at this chart is, what is a defense expenditure? Well, if I know that this goes along with militarism, and I know that increase means going up, and then we have defense. Defense is when you defend yourself, and expenditures is how much you spend. So this is the increase in how much money each nation spent on their militaries. Please go ahead and pause the video now and answer questions 1 and 2. And when you have answered those questions, hit play. Okay, so you should have looked at questions 1 and 2, and I'm going to go over my thought process for these questions to make sure that you understand what the questions were and how you can best answer them. So question number 1, if you were France, what would you do when you found out Germany had increased their military spending by 73%? If I were France, I would make sure that I was also increasing my defense expenditures. If I were Britain, I would also make sure that I was increasing my expenditures more if I knew that Germany had increased so much in just 4 years. Number 2, how would militarism contribute to war? Again, you could have several answers to that. One answer might be militarism would contribute to war because when I know that one country has a lot of weapons and I build up my weapons, then we can actually fight each other a lot more brutally, and we're a lot more confident fighting each other, which could lead to war that we might otherwise have been too scared to declare. All right, our next cause of World War I is alliances. Make sure that on your sheet you go ahead and flip-flop the titles. So on the video screen it is correct. On the left hand side we have the Triple Entente. The Triple Entente contained Great Britain, France, and Russia. The Triple Alliance, again in the years leading up to World War I, the Triple Alliance consisted of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. Please note those names on your paper and make sure that you have Triple Entente on top of Great Britain, France, and Russia, and the Triple Alliance on top of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. So if one member of either alliance were attacked, all members would respond to its defense. Also, it would ensure that no member of your alliance would attack you. So if I'm part of the Triple Alliance, I'm Austria-Hungary, and somebody attacks me, Germany might rush to my defense. Or I would at least know that Germany would not attack me because they're on my team. So that is how alliances work. Look at the map on the screen and the map on your paper. It's a lot clearer on the screen, so take a moment to look at it. You'll see that this is military alliances in 1914. The Central Powers in 1914 consist of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy, and the Triple Entente was the United Kingdom, or Great Britain, France, and Russia. Okay? Go ahead, make sure that you take a good look at this map, pause the video now, and complete the questions under alliances. Okay, you should have now answered the 3 questions underneath the map. Looking at the advantage that the Triple Entente had, one advantage could be that they were surrounding the Central Powers on either side. You could also have thought of a different advantage that you had written down, but make sure to check with me if you did. Number 2, one advantage the Central Powers had is they had a strong they literally were located in the middle. That's why they were the Central Powers. So they could actually attack on 2 sides. If they could defeat France on one side, then they've got rid of that whole part of the Triple Entente. Also, they at first had Italy, which was a great led to the sea. So they had advantage by having access to water. And then number 3, how did alliances lead to war? Make sure that you have an answer in that portion. Again, alliances can lead to war because if I'm friends with one country and somebody attacks them, I might attack back, and that could lead to a lot greater war than if it's just one country versus another. Go ahead and flip your paper to the back where we have our 3rd cause of World War I, which is nationalism. Nationalism, again, is this extreme pride in your country. There were a few types of nationalism happening around World War I. There's Pan-Germanism, make sure you fill this in, which is a movement to unify the people of all German-speaking countries. On the screen, you can see that these Germanic areas in purple, it was a very large chunk of land that consists of modern-day Austria and Germany and some other areas as well. So that was a movement to unite them all. Then we have Pan-Slavism, which is a movement to unify all of the Slavic people. Again, you can see on the map on the screen a lot better than you can on your paper how there were a lot of Slavic regions that were kind of individual countries either at the time or have now become individual countries, but this movement was, okay, if I'm a Slavic region, then I want to unite the other Slavic regions. So basically, I'm motivated to form alliances if I have this nationalistic view. Go ahead now and read the little paragraph that's on your paper and answer question 1. How did nationalism lead to fights over territories? Pause the video and answer that question now. So again, for question 1, make sure that you've used that text-dependent question, you've read the text, and that you have an answer that you feel confident with for question number 1. Let's move on to imperialism, which is our 4th cause of World War I. Imperialism, as the little paragraph tells you, says that Europe's access to technology allowed it to begin to have power over much of the world. Competition for new trade routes and sources of raw materials led to much tension between European nations. Britain and Germany were in competition for carving out colonies in the Middle East and Africa, while Russia and Austria-Hungary were competing over control of the Balkans, which was a geographic region in Europe. Okay? So if you look at this map that's in front of you, you'll see the nationalities. This shows the nationalities of Austria-Hungary in 1867. Austria-Hungary at that time was one country, but it united many nationalities because Austria-Hungary had imperialized that whole area. So please answer the question, how did Austria-Hungary's imperialism over many nationalities probably increase tensions in the area? Pause the video and answer that question now. So one possible response is that Austria-Hungary had imperialized all of these different nationalities, and that causes tensions because much like Africa, When you try to unite people that have traditionally had their own separate governments and you try to make them all now fit under one, this causes tensions between different nationalities. Okay, we are on our last letter of MANIA, of our acronym MANIA, which is A for assassination. This is the point of no return, the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Please note that underneath the picture there's a caption that tells us that the Austrian Archduke was killed in Bosnia by a Serbian nationalist who believed that Bosnia should belong to Serbia. So go ahead and fill in this cause and effect chain as I read it to you. So first, after he was assassinated, Austria, remember he was Austrian, they blamed all of Serbia for Ferdinand's death and declared war on Serbia. Remember, Germany was in alliance with Austria, so Germany pledged their support for Austria-Hungary, which was an example of pan-German nationalism, because again, they had had an alliance, and also it was this movement that wanted to unite all Germanic peoples. Russia then pledged their support for Serbia. So Russia, who was on the side of the Triple Entente, they sided with Serbia, which was also a Slavic country, so this was an example of pan-Slavic nationalism. So Germany then declares war on Russia because Germany now is saying, we're siding with Austria-Hungary, we now declare war on Russia. Okay, France sides with Russia because they are a part of the Triple Entente. France sides with Russia, so pledges their support for Russia. Germany declares war on France. And then Germany invades Belgium on the way to France because Belgium is kind of geographically on the way to France. And Great Britain says, actually, we are part of the Triple Entente as well. We support Belgium, who you have now declared war on, and we declare war on Germany. So the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand is often described as the spark that started World War I. In your own words, explain how this assassination led to World War I. Please reread the cause and effect chain that we just completed and answer that question in a nice complete sentence so that you are ready to go on to the next exercise. Excellent job, scholars. Make sure that you pay close attention and keep this note sheet near and dear to your heart.